I don't think it came from God. I do believe he was like epileptic and had a...
We can explore that. But what you're saying here is...
Do you think it would be accurate?
Do you think epilepsy can bring a book like the Quran?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Have you ever seen an epileptic coming up bringing something like that?
Yes.
Give me an example.
I'll write it. I'll write it.
Likeness like the likeness of the creator.
Yeah. But the creation exists. The creation exists in some physical form, in some quantitative state.
Yeah, it's not a metaphor. Creation to us is not a metaphor, it's not an illusion.
I know,
it's created by creator. It's a real thing.
Metaphor we use to describe reality.
Yeah. So nothingness.
There is a qualitative.
So describe what you mean by nothingness then.
Nothing means nothing in being.
When you say qualitative,
there is no quantitative state.
And what's a qualitative state?
Quantitative.
What's a qualitative
something
state?
you could measure. So one or a length. Or,
what about the qualitative state of nothingness?
Well, it would just be one.
What exactly would it be? What would be nothingness?
Everything. All qualities. So
nothingness would not have any qualities.
Fucking boring. It would.
How?
Well, that's what would exist.
Because it's not a thing.
So all abstractions would exist. You can agree that.
But let's try
there may not be a mind.
Let's try to understand what this means nothingness. Because nothingness, it's a concept to describe absence of everything.
In other words,
there's no essence or attributes
within
that.
No quantitative state in existence.
I can understand quantitatively.
Yeah.
Qualitatively, is there anything called nothingness?
Nothingness would exist if there were no qualitative states. That is the state of existence.
If we are something then,
qualitative.
So let's see how your definition works. If we are something now, in the past, could there be an event or a state qualitatively where there was nothingness?
Let's talk about so war.
Yes, and all other.
When you say yes, what do you mean nothingness can exist?
It's just a metaphor. It doesn't exist to describe the concept yet. You've seen.
No, that's a good start. Metaphors cannot exist to describe that concept. That's a very good start.
Yeah. So
in other words,
language we just construct mental metaphors. So, like for example, we call that a jacket. But there's nothing. It's just a token that describes it within a context of people's understanding.
In the absence of all things, there can't be any token understanding.
There aren't any of those.
Sorry?
Those things would still exist in the same way that they exist now as abstractions.
How would they exist as abstractions in the absence of all things? An abstraction conceptually can only exist within. Just 1 second. An abstraction can only exist within the mind of something. They don't exist as actual extra-mental. Let me give it to you so you understand. They don't exist as things floating around out there as real extra-mental, concrete particulars, objects, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they are not objects, they have to now exist conceptually, and they need to be grounded in something.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of, yeah. I don't know how far I go with that. I don't like the grounded language, and these Christians use it, and it confuses.
No, I'm not talking about from a Christian point of view. I'm talking.
I know you are.
From a purely philosophical
perspective.
How would you ground conceptuals? How would you ground them? If nothing exists, there's no mind.
Well, there is a mind. As I've already said that there is some kind of quantum, conscious field that the universe.
Then there's not a moment where there's nothing. Then there's always something.
There was nothing quantitative.
Nothingness.
There is no physical thing.
Nothingness. If you think about what nothingness is, for anything, it will have properties. Nothing doesn't have any properties because it's just a concept to say it's absence of all essence and attributes.
Let's say the universe doesn't exist. Let's bring it down to just something like simple. Let's say our universe doesn't exist. The universe is nothing.
You know what? I think you're borrowing from Lawrence Krauss.
I don't know.
The Lawrence Krauss, the idea that...
Or Penrose.
Okay, whether it's Penrose or Lawrence Krauss.
Lawrence Krauss have come a long way from thing.
Okay, but let's go back to the old Lawrence Krauss.
We're basically describing the concept of God, but in physical terms.
Let's talk about
this some kind of physical terms.
Sure, but let's talk about, before we go to God, let's talk about this notion of nothingness being represented by this quantum field, or this quantum reality.
Yeah,
this exotic.
That's effectively the mind.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you believe that that's the mind, right?
Yeah.
When Mansur and myself, we speak about nothingness, it's the absence of the quantum world as well. So in other words, we're not talking about a Lawrence Krauss Penrose concept of nothingness.
That state can actually exist, but it's a contradiction. Immediately annihilates itself back to a
irrespective of whether it annihilates itself or not. My point here is that our point here is nothingness is the absence.
Nothingness.
So just one second.
In its purest state would be infinity.
No.
And the negation.
No, it would not have any properties.
But it would.
That sounds contradictory to me.
Because that's what we describe as nothing. Nothing is a conceptual.
If you have all concepts, and then you have the negation of all concepts.
Yeah.
And
ours is a negation of everything that you know about something.
That is nothingness.
So let me.
All things
Okay, let me.
In nothingness.
Our concept of nothing is the opposite to what we call something. So it's total negation of something, in which it doesn't even have potentialities.
Yeah.
So that's nothingness. It's a thing that doesn't even exist.
But it is a contradiction.
It's not a contradiction.
There are things that cannot not exist in that state. You have to.
No, but there is no state.
Nothingness doesn't exist.
Sorry?
Nothingness doesn't exist.
Qualitative.
I think you're forcing.
It simply doesn't exist.
I think what he's doing, you're forcing language as something that actually can describe.
The language may be very. Nothing and means different things. And
so when we,
it does.
Yeah. So when we're talking,
I'm talking about level 9 nothingness. Okay, you're talking about maybe level 4 or 5.
Yes.
I'm talking level 9. So you can look into 9 levels of nothing, and look at what we mean by level 9 nothing, which is the absolute nothingness. That thing that cannot exist.
Which includes even the conceptualization of contradictions.
What's level 10 nothing? What's level 10 nothing?
There is no level 10. Level 9 is sufficient to describe.
Nothing. How many nothings are there?
It's not how many nothing.
No.
Nothingness
How many
is a
nothings
concept that describes.
How many nothings are there?
What does it
There is
mean? What does it mean?
Sorry?
Explain.
There may be no mind to know it. There may be no
Mind
being
is
to
like
be
level 5 nothing.
Sorry?
Mind, abstract objects or things, laws. These are level 5.
No, go one level higher. One and
There is
zero.
no one level higher.
There is
it's not
zero,
like
there is nothing,
Infinite.
and there is
look,
one of.
nothing is not an infinite concept where you can just say like you can add more and more. Level 9 describes the absolute level of nothingness.
Nothing is the.
Look,
Is the,
okay,
is infinity.
let me tell you what my level 9 nothing and see if you can add some more.
So go on, yeah.
Level 9 nothing is absence of everything, including potentialities, absence of God, absence of power, knowledge, quantum fields, absence of laws,
That's
abstract thing.
contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction. I'm describing what it is.
Sorry?
I think what he's doing.
It's like-
Are you recursively placing language on nothingness to try and justify the existence of nothingness to yourself? Are you taking what words?
might be. Let's go-
I think
continue
you
the
are.
conversation,
Yeah, I think
find
you
the-
are. Because it seems like what you're doing is you're using an ad hoc explanation to try and justify the existence of nothingness by saying the mere fact that I'm articulating nothingness gives me the means of being able to explain nothingness as a concept. And we're saying that not only... Yeah, I think you are. Because what you're doing is you recognize that nothingness...
Let's say that in, what do they call it? It's the worlds theory.
What?
In philosophy, there's the theory of worlds.
Modal logic and all the rest of it.
No, just the they call them.
What?
Possible world?
Yeah, possible world theory.
Okay.
Let's say there is a theoretical world where there is nothing. That doesn't exist, and there is one of those.
No, but there wouldn't be any one of those. That's the issue.
There's because what you say, logical possibility.
But I'm literally saying that world is impossible because that state is in infinite contradiction, and so would contradict itself to bring about something into being. So there is a moment in eternity where reality can actually come into existence
from nothingness.
It begins. Well, it's kind of like where all negations.
Okay, let me ask you this
negate
question.
and invert and like come back again.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
So that's the beginning.
If nothingness is the absence of time, and time is the absence of moments, how would this nothingness know when to bring itself about? Because you said nothingness at one moment.
Everything exists at that point as well.
And you said that
Sorry?
potentially there could be nothingness.
But
And then you're contradicting by saying everything exists.
Remember, you're trying to go from nothingness to existence.
Okay, let's make it simpler.
No,
Shall I make it simpler for you?
Yeah.
Imagine a state when there's absolutely nothing.
the language just
Yeah.
the metaphor is
Just
too
think about
too
it.
complex.
There was nothing.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, there was simply
a
nothing.
moment.
No,
Yeah.
there was nothing.
Yeah. A single
Now,
moment.
there is no moment.
There is no moment.
There's no time.
What is a moment for you? Tell me what a moment is.
Moment is what?
Is it
a
from
point in time?
one instance to another?
No,
No.
it's
Is it just one single instance?
yeah,
Okay.
an instance.
An instance.
It's a single possible world.
What defines that instance? What defines that instance? Don't say nothingness, because that's
Nothing is
that's
just
circular.
Nothing doesn't define it, but just in that state.
no.
It qualitatively independent of it, there is you can't actually have a true nothing. Right? It is a contradictory. It's an impossible world.
Right, I agree with you,
Yeah.
and anyone would agree with you
Yeah.
that the concept of nothingness cannot. It can't be.
The concept
it can't be
itself
real.
doesn't exist.
Yes,
in
it
that
can't-
state.
It can't.
But
We're just discussing
but it is an accurate description that would exist.
We are
independent.
contrasting with what is something.
Yeah, so the labels exist, right? In abstract, so
Yeah.
independent of any mind.
But remember,
whether they're
those labels will only exist when someone like you and me
Yeah, they only come into being.
apply it.
They only come into
Right.
being when we are.
But it doesn't.
But they take up no time. They take up no space.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
To make you
Ignore.
happy.
Okay, turn off.
Shut up!
Ignore him.
Go to bed!
No, someone's upset her. She's doesn't like being looked at in a certain way.
Well, good that we have police around, so hopefully
Yeah.
they will assist her.
Yeah. Can't do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once upon a time, if there was nothing, just imagine. Once upon a time, there was no world.
I think we're
there was
actually kind of agreed
There's
on-
no universe. There was nothing.
Yeah.
From that state, nothing will come ever, because this nothing doesn't have anything to make something.
Surely you've heard that philosophical maxim that from nothing can
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So the fact that we are
That's not
something.
necessarily true.
So why not?
Because if you negate everything, you have everything in it.
But that would only make
have
sense.
the positive-
That would only make sense when a person living in a something relates his concepts back to that state of
It's
nothingness.
independent of any mind, independent of any being. That there is still a true state.
Then how would this state be grounded? Where would it be grounded in? There's nothing there to
in
ground.
everything that would instantly come back into being.
No, but that's after the fact.
Sorry?
Being,
after.
becoming while you are nothing, there's no becoming,
Yes.
because there's nothing to become from. There's no source, there's no origin. If the origin is nothing, then you can't
But
be
it's a moment in eternity in both directions, where it's the origin point of
But
everything.
you cannot
And
have a
that
moment
point-
where there's nothing.
That possible world has to exist. And
When you say possible, you're already saying it's something.
Sorry?
Because if nothing has no possibility, then there will be.
it's an impossible state to bring into being, in a sense, in that nothing actually exists in
Right,
that state.
good. We agree with you there.
But it's an entirely self-contradictory
Okay.
state of being.
Language.
And- yeah.
Take
We'll
language.
take that,
No,
right?
but
It's not just
in
that.
your model,
In here, I've got the-
in your model, there's something that always existed, and that's
Yeah,
the mind,
yeah.
right?
Sure, we can go with that for now.
What-
I think he's even negated that. You're negating that as well, aren't you?
What do you call it?
You're saying it's a
I'm saying that
self-contradictory
mind, or
concept.
whatever, all the other dimensions of whatever existence are.
Okay, good.
Like those are. Well, let's say they're all eternal, but I believe
Let's
there was a
understand
moment
in a
at which there
simple
was, in fact,
terms.
nothingness.
Physical laws,
nothing in
physical laws,
Yeah.
and laws of logic. There's two different
Yeah.
things. They exist in our world,
Yeah, so
and they originate
laws
from.
of logic are applied to the quantitative reality.
They originate from.
The thing is what it is, the thing isn't what it isn't, and there's no
No,
state
you're
existence
describing
between those two.
You're describing them.
I'm
my
applying the
question
laws
is
of logic
rather,
to reality, but then there's laws
where
of logic
do
of the mind.
these originate from? The laws of nature and the laws of logic.
From whatever source they came.
What source?
Hmm?
What source?
I've already conceded that.
Which is
A mind or of some kind of thing.
right. So why do you call it mind and not the creator of everything?
I'm happy to call it a creator.
What would be the qualities of this mind?
Yeah.
What would be the qualities of this mind?
Can we actually bring it to actual religion? What you guys actually believe? So like, you obviously got the Quran, right? And you believe that's an uncreated thing.
No, but that's a massive leap. Let's go back.
Wait, just a minute. Right? So we have like, reality and our meta layer. Now the Quran obviously is a recitation, and like, we have a rendition of it we can like communicate. But that is just another metaphor that we're using to describe like the reality, this particular world. Yeah, because Allah's described as being the Lord of the worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lord of the worlds,
Which mean there will be more than one world.
the being that has specific attributes.
Yeah.
And these attributes, if you just 1 second.
Sorry.
These attributes are necessary attributes to define an existent thing.
Yeah. So
Would you agree with that? That this mind has certain necessary attributes
Yeah. So
to define its existence. Would you agree with that?
sorry.
That this mind, it has necessary attributes to define its existence. The mind.
Those will be emergent out of infinity. There will be some object in that space that will, possess those qualities. Yeah.
Is this mind material? When you talk about object and space.
I don't know what you mean by material in that
Okay.
sense,
So let's say that's why I use the word. I use the word creator, originator. Something that originated all of these things must possess some qualities, attributes.
I mean, it possesses all of them in a.
All.
So if you we're just like walking through the mind of God.
Okay.
Like, as the metaphors, right?
Yeah.
And so you're viewing the memories of God from that particular position, and you're there, and there's infinitely many worlds potentially.
So
we're all doing things like that.
So in other words,
the Quran would be Muhammad's.
But the Quran claims it's sourced from
visions.
God.
It
comes
does
from
does,
God. So what's your take on that?
I don't make that leap in the sense that
Okay,
the
so
Quran is
makes
necessarily
sense.
true.
So how do you assess that
So
then?
Muhammad lived a life, and he spoke words that matched his metaphor of his existence, and he all of time and space exist like already, right? And so he was making his sequence
so-
of his sequence.
so
of
the
his life.
sum. So what you're saying here? The
I
sum
don't
total-
think it came from God. I
Sure.
do believe he was
Okay.
like epileptic and had a.
We can explore that. But what you're saying here is
Do you
that
think would be
Do
accurate?
you think
to describe-
epilepsy can bring a book like the Quran?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever seen an epileptic coming up bringing something like that?
Yes.
Give me an example.
I'll write it. I'll write it. I've suffered from many like mental disorders. I know what happened.
Epilepsy.
Sorry.
You know about epilepsy,
I
right?
don't know if I've got epilepsy. I might have like overcome it.
Right. So I'm talking about epileptic individuals. Do you know of any?
So it's very common for epileptics to write very, very good like language and prose. There's was Edgar Allan Poe as an example.
He's epileptic.
Sorry?
He's
Yeah, he was epileptic.
And
yeah.
during his epileptic stance or fits, he produced these kind of things.
He produced things of an ilk. I'm not saying he had the same influence.
We are differentiating between
so
during the
it's all about-
fits. During the fits, look,
Yeah.
this is a very debunked idea from the Middle Ages, I would say, from the argument point of view. No one subscribes
Well, the
that
argument
Prophet
always
Muhammad.
develops. Don't just discount what I'm saying.
What I'm saying, I am saying is, if you knew
Old argument.
if you
I'm not
knew
approaching you with that.
what epilepsy is,
Yeah.
and someone from an epileptic fit produces material like the Quran in terms of it describes historical events accurately when no one knew about it, like the Egyptians, the pharaohs.
Yeah.
To give you an example, the pharaoh called themselves
I've heard
God.
that one, yeah.
God.
I've heard that.
And this comes from an epileptic fit, or describes a prophecy of the future that will happen from an epileptic fit. You need to bring some substantial evidence to back up this claim. Simply zero evidence exists that epileptic fits like this can produce this kind of material.
Okay, give me an example. So, there's a. Have you heard of Chris Langham? Chris Langham.
No.
He's an American. He's supposed to be the most intelligent man in the world. He has a theory called the MCLU. I can't actually remember what it stands for, but it's basically that everyone is their own like self-generator of their own like universe. That we embody a thing and exist within the self, and everything is just a reflection of us, and that we're all like individual.
So what does
minds
it say about
walking around that
epilepsy?
Space. I just put on. There's a lot to go through. Mansur, like an infinite number of things. Like I'm going to get to that. So there's a in that world, you as an individual would be the creator of your world, and yourself is generating your perceptions and reality, and so you're God.
Okay.
And then your God, if defined differently, would be what you worship. And if you worship or you pay your attentions to your environment and your world, this is your God.
Okay, so
So I'm God, and this is my God.
It doesn't answer the question yet. Bring to epilepsy. Has he described epileptic individuals in effect?
Which was
go back to epilepsy.
Spoken.
We are describing. You're bringing him
God
as a
my God. It's Gog and Magog.
Your support of this particular individual is that epileptic individuals can produce material of the nature that I described. I gave you two different type of examples:
Good.
Historical events accuracy and future events. And
so there's an ability of like minds to project forwards and backwards in time.
I don't want theories.
I'm actually talking the truth. Like you can look into the future.
I think you're missing the point.
Enough of the
I am not interested in models and theories. I asked you.
You can look into the future.
Look, I asked you.
Back into the future.
I asked you a different question. My question is not about theories, frameworks, models. I'm asking for practical evidence. Where do we find in peer-reviewed publications in which epileptic individuals during the time of fits, they can describe things that I describe of this nature?
There will be.
Where are they?
Sorry?
Where is the evidence and data?
Have you come across any type of peer-reviewed research or anything like that to justify your claim?
It's a very, very difficult subject to study.
No, we didn't ask you that.
It is an incredibly
easy.
Have you come across
epilepsy
studies?
How do you put all of your dreams and all of your
You're not discussing
ideas
the subject. You're going to theories. We need to discuss
really difficult
practicalities.
Very, very simple question.
Not theories. So, for example, we have learned.
I can't bring you any evidence of it in that form.
Then
I can bring me.
Then you have a belief.
I have evidence of that.
So you have a belief. You have an opinion.
I do have a.
But you have no evidence.
I know that.
You have no evidence. I'm interested in evidence.
Okay. Let's if we can just go with the theory for a moment, because there isn't any evidence.
I'm not interested in theories.
Okay.
Evidence. Only evidence.
Okay. What can I point to in the real world?
Because you dismissed the Quran coming from a man who was epileptic. I am saying there is no physical.
I didn't dismiss the Quran in that sense.
No.
All I said.
You said because of his epileptic fits, this is how the Quran originated. It didn't come from God. That was your claim.
Essentially.
Yes. But
I'm dismissing this based on evidence. There is no evidence that epileptic fits can produce materials of the nature I'm talking about.
And so
you're making the leap from the physical existing within the quantum.
No, but I think you would agree with him.
Giving a positive claim and evidence.
I'm saying that the Quran is a rendition.
For the moment, For the moment, you're saying you don't have any real practical evidence to give us, and that's that's fine. And that's answered the question, right?
It'll take a little while for me to kind of.
No problem. You go do your research. Take another 10 years to do your research.
Yeah.
We're here every Sunday, inshallah. If we're here in 10 years' time, come and give us that research. For the moment, let's go back to what you said before, which was that the experiences of Prophet Muhammad, the experiences of this Chris Langer.
Chris Langer. I don't believe that theory.
No, that's fine.
Just a.
But I'm going to try I'm going to try and just summarize what I think you understand by this. Sure. I think I'm going to try and summarize what you mean by
that's actually like someone reciting the Quran. Then it's an English.
You're saying the sum total.
You're
saying that the sum total of the experiences that people have, they ultimately originate back to that mind, which must have all the attributes necessary to bring the universe into existence.
Sure.
Good. So we can go from there. So some of the attributes that this being must have.
Yeah.
It should indicate that this being is very much alive. Why?
It depends. Yeah. There's certain leaps. Sorry?
Self-aware.
I think we are.
If that being is not self-aware, what do you expect?
Sorry?
If that being, the mind that you describe, if it wasn't self-aware, would anything proceed with this nature and magnitude and this form that we see?
And by the way,
I don't know. That's a very, very complex question.
No, but this question, Mansur isn't asking you to take to make a paradigm shift outside your rationale. All our experiences, you know when you said,
what's the word? So
you know when you said, well, your rationale is you, right?
Yeah.
The sum total of your knowledge of the world. So when you interpret things, you're confined by your knowledge. I'm confined by my knowledge. Mansur is confined by his knowledge.
You're also confined by your imagination.
Yes.
And
yep.
other things
And
like
that's
your
included.
mind, not just what. Yeah.
That's included within your mind, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Your imagination isn't distinct from your mind, is it? You need your mind to imagine.
Well, I don't know everything that I know in that sense. So I will imagine things, but I don't yet know.
Sure. And whatever it is that you're not going to be able to imagine, ultimately you can only know through your mind. Sure.
I'm not sure I follow that.
Okay, so this is the point we're trying to make to you.
Yeah.
Can you conceive of this being? Can you conceive of this being outside of your own experiences? The answer is no. So when we ask you, anyone?
Can anyone?
Sorry?
Anyone. How can anyone think
people
of...
can conceive it outside of my experiences, yes.
No.
That's what you said.
Their own experiences.
Their individual experiences.
Well, they wouldn't exist. That's what existence is to experience.
And they wouldn't be able to make inferences. They wouldn't be able to make predictions. They wouldn't be able to answer truth claims and so on and so forth. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So when we asked you, this being has to be, like Mansur said, conscious, self-aware.
Sure, I'm happy to concede that for the purpose of discussion.
Well, no. Don't just do it for the sake of it. Is there any way of doing it other than through your rationale? Is there any way of reaching this conclusion outside of your rationale?
So my experience of that field is that it's very, very indifferent, and so I don't believe there is a single unifying like construct or message through the whole of the eternity that will exist within this realm.
If there wasn't a single unifying mind or a force, as you described, the world would not stand as it is now. It will disintegrate, melt away, disappear.
You might be right. I haven't got all the way to the.
It's not. This is the reality. Because there will be conflict of will.
Between
conflict of will.
Yeah, you mentioned that like before, and you played on a language thing where I said that obviously in the set of all of infinite things or whatever, that these qualities will exist, right? And then as you said,
there can be one unifying.
But I don't personally believe that will is unified, or it's more than universally, whatever.
Can you really conceptualize there can be more than one will operating in the universe, which is absolute?
The will of this universe.
Any
no.
universe.
The will of the source that brought the universe into
But
existence.
that will is by definition like contradictory in that it has like within it like infinitely self-destructive traits.
What do you mean by infinitely? You throw these words out
Absolutely.
there. Absolutely. Okay, that's what you mean.
Yeah, maybe like
good.
maximally.
Maximum.
Yeah, boundless.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this same will that brought the universe into existence, surely the same will also be involved in sustaining the universe from one moment to the next.
Sure, but is that a unified will across all worlds? And
if it wasn't, what do you expect?
Something that's unified for the exact state of things that come into being.
Yes, the answer to that question is a definite yes.
That's a step I haven't got to yet.
But,
look.
If the sum total of all existence came from this one will.
Yeah, so if there are infinitely many wills.
Just one second. I'm not talking about
your will and its will.
I'm not talking about the contingent wills. I'm talking about this necessary will. If the sum total of
I think the sum total of all those wills are the necessary will.
Cannot be how.
They're contingent.
So your will to exist is part of that will, and every part of your life
not part
is
of it.
Part.
It's entirely dependent upon it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to understand one thing.
That's the level of being.
A set of dependent things.
Yeah.
Does it become independent?
Well, we're talking about it in a qualitative sense. They are non-unified in that they are.
That's not the question.
Contradictory wills.
That's not the question.
That's part of that set.
If you have a set,
but if you're
and within that set, all of them. If you have a set, like this universe is a set, and within this universe,
if you have within physical states, then no.
Within this universe, if you have many individuals with wills, collectively, do they become independent?
No, not in the universe.
Yeah.
We're talking about a meta layer.
So we're talking about now in the cosmos.
Of a
Cosmos, all that exists.
mind dimension.
All that exists.
That is God.
All that exists.
Yeah.
They cannot be dependent on themselves.
Can I find a point of disagreement? Because I agree with you completely.
Then they have to depend on something that is necessary. And there can only be one thing that is necessary.
Yeah.
One will.
Why do you make things so complicated by bringing in meta layers and this and that?
Because it is really complicated.
But do you think you're making it complicated, too complicated, overly complicated for yourself by throwing in these words that maybe you and I and Mansur, we wouldn't even be able to understand what it really means?
That's part of my mental condition.
So maybe
I said I will write something equal to the Quran.
Yeah. So maybe it's a case of overestimating your ability, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's impossible.
I don't know yet. We'll have a go, right?
No.
You'll have to find out.
No, if I say the Quran is in a particular linguistic structure, the linguistic structure is that it brings a totally new form of language in which people accept. So for you to bring something like it, you would say, I have to bring something new, and yet people will like it. How would you make people like it? Because they're independent of you. They would not accept a language which is, for example, if I start speaking like this, আপনি কি বলছেন আমি বুঝতে পারছি না এতক্ষণ আমরা কি আলাপ করলাম আপনার সাথে বুঝতে পারেননি আপনি
Are you speaking real words?
I did.
Sorry?
But you didn't understand anything.
No, I did. Well,
Imagine.
From it.
No, imagine. What did I say?
I don't know yet. It'll take a while to go through and find the person that does understand it.
Exactly.
Concept.
But imagine I said this was English language version 2. You would not say English language because none of the English-speaking people here would say, "Yep, we agree that's new form of English language," because they haven't got a clue what I said. So you would not be able to bring.
What language was it?
You still want to know?
Yeah.
Not English.
Oh, of course it wasn't.
It was Bangla, Bengali, Bangla. Bangla. So only one or two, not many.
Only speak English.
Fluently too.
Yeah.
A little bit pieces others. So when we have the Quran saying you can bring something like the book, the Quran brings Arabic language in a new form and accepted by people. In your case, you may feel that I can bring something like it, but because other people are independent of you, you can make something like the statement I made, thinking it's English. Other people will not accept it as English. So you will fail from the start goal. And that's exactly what happens with the Quran.
You don't know what the goal is yet.
Look, people are failing, have failed, and so will you, because the challenge is of that nature.
See.
It's not we'll see. It's not that you have the potential. For example, can you make a thermonuclear fission in a glass?
Potentially.
Can you?
Sorry?
Can you?
Not right now, but we might be able to do it in the future.
No, can you?
Sorry?
Can you do it?
I mean, if it's possible to arrange the universe in that state, and I have the ability to do it.
It's not if.
Sorry?
It's not theory. Can you do it practically?
Well, you're asking me whether I have it right now.
No.
You're
Can
saying
you do
whether
it
I could.
tomorrow?
No, it would take me a bit more time than that.
Okay.
Maybe,
can you do it within 100 years?
Now, let's say give me 4 million years. Then.
But you're not going to live for 4 million years.
Well,
so
I have to solve that problem first.
So can you do it in your lifetime?
No, not without help.
So it's impossible for you to do it in your lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you can't bring the Quran in your lifetime or in your other lifetimes. You might wish I can, but it will never happen because of the way it is.
Well, the Quran's only a finite length.
It's not. You need to understand the challenge of the Quran to appreciate it. And that's why the Quran gives
only
the
a
evidence.
Finite length. Muhammad was able to
No, it's not about length. It's not about length.
You say
it's not quantity. It's not quantity. That's why the Quran says you can bring the whole Quran like it, 10 chapters like it, or even 1 chapter like it. So it gives you quantitative flexibility. But what all it's asking is qualitative imitation.
Yeah.
And you will fail like everyone else will fail.
Sure. I'm happy to fail that test. That's not my test.
And that's why the Quran gives this as an evidence of its divine origin is from God.
So what is your...
So I mean, in a sense, everything is from God. So that's almost a meaningless statement.
Is this from God?
Sorry?
This book?
Yes.
Whoever's written it?
Yes.
So what is your...
Okay, so that's a distinction you're making. Sorry. You're saying if there is a
direct communication from that mind that you believe in.
You've got a source that's like got an angel has been delivered.
The mind that you believe in, direct communication from that mind saying, this is who I am, and this is what I want of you.
It was relayed via something, some other dimensional being that exists.
It can be relayed in different forms.
Yeah.
Now we have audio.
I don't believe those other things exist. I believe they're like those are like hallucinations. They're Muhammad's explanation.
What happens when I die?
Sorry?
What happens when we die?
My body stops working, and
that's the end of you.
Sorry,
is that the end of it?
I mean, everything that exists right now is all the same age in terms of like.
What happens after you die and after I die?
Been flushing around.
So, imagine we are in our graves.
Sorry, you've got one question at a time.
No, same. Just giving you a picture. We are in our graves.
Yeah.
Would you know that you are in your grave?
I don't think so. I don't know how much of my consciousness would exist, because there'll be parts of me that won't ever be completely gone.
But would you remain conscious of yourself?
No, I think I would lose self-consciousness. My brain would no longer function in the way that it was possible for me to be as aware as I am now of my own existence. But
then what will happen?
Those, all your senses.
And then what will happen?
Related to your organs.
So if you're good in this life, or if you're very bad, committed genocide, what will happen after that? When you die in your grave, your consciousness is disappearing, and now you can't remember yourself. Now, would there be any accountability? If, for example, an individual, not you, because you're a good guy, if an individual committed genocide, let me grant you that.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure. Well, for the conversation, yeah.
Someone committed genocide, killed so many people, young people, and so on and so forth. Now, if we think that the end is when they're in their graves, they just disappear from their consciousness like everyone else. Where is justice?
I've got the point.
Where is justice?
I actually believe people suffer that hell in their minds.
But there is no mind then.
No, they are.
But some people in this lifetime, they don't suffer.
Potential. If there is, if that conscious state exists, we're all broadcasting our brainwaves, obviously with electromagnetic waves in your head, all bouncing all your thoughts around.
Yeah.
And there's that's why you get people that seemingly psychic, that kind of thing. So that if parts of your body exist, you may still be experiencing some amount of the thoughts and memories of every time that something relates to you.
But you don't know that for certainty, do you?
I haven't experienced it.
Yeah, so this is just purely theory-based. So what Mansur and...
Purely, I mean, those things do...
Well, they are. It's purely theory-based, otherwise you have some type of real empirical evidence for it. So you don't have that, right? You don't have any empirical evidence. It's your theorizing based upon your knowledge. So look, what we're putting across to you here is as follows.
The Islamic version of justice would be hell. There's obviously all...
No, but accountability.
Sorry?
Accountability. Justice, where they'll be accountable for what they have done, good or bad.
What's your name, by the way?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Hamza.
Mansur.
You know Mansur, okay? Yeah. So Joseph. Hamza.
Hamza.
But Joseph, the point we're making here is as follows. There's a distinction between your theorizing and the information we have, which we believe comes from the mind itself. And we have evidence for it.
Yeah.
So Mansur's given you one evidence, which is that it's impossible for human beings, even collectively, with the sum total of their wills, to produce a Quran. We have other evidences as well.
Let's say that there is the physical reality, and there's the meta reality.
Would that
and those two have to
Do you go by evidence only or theories only?
No, this isn't just, it will be self-evident, right? If you let me explain it. Pause. Yeah, self-evident. You won't be able to object, right? So let's say we've got the meta layer, which includes God.
What does it mean?
Sorry? Everything that's not the physical, right? Okay. Everything that's not the physical. Mind, abstractions, concepts.
Understood.
Love, fantasies, etc. Everything that's not physically real. You have the physically real layer. For the Quran to exist, for Muhammad to recite it, both of those have to be in perfect sync.
It is.
Muhammad has to be able to deliver the Quran.
It is.
Yeah. So I'm in agreement with you that the Quran is a synchronicity with that meta layer. Mm-hmm. Right? In Muhammad's mind, he will have come up with explanations like we do, to describe our dreams.
But he couldn't have.
Sorry?
That's why Chris Langdon, I disagree with it.
I do as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So since we both disagree,
his theory is
individual. That you can be your own God and know everything, do everything. Since we both disagree, as I said, thermonuclear fission, you can't do it. As I said, That's the reason I asked that question.
I'm not the entirety of that meta layer. I'm not God.
I mean,
I'm just a man. Yeah.
That's
what
the
about
point.
information, Joseph?
You
What
can
about-
personalize that in a
Yeah.
sense.
But what about
And, like,
information?
live it.
What about information if we were to give you that couldn't possibly come from a limited mind? Would that impress you? Would you find that that
Everything
challenges?
necessarily comes from an unlimited mind.
No, from a limited mind.
What?
They cannot have come from a
Could not have come from a limited mind. Limited.
It couldn't have come from
So
Prophet
therefore,
Muhammad.
it could only have
Peace
come
be
from a
upon him.
limited, unlimited mind.
Would
Would you find that interesting? Would that challenge
I
you?
don't really think that's saying anything, because it's like
Really?
if mind exists and and it is infinite, you only have your temporal spatial perception of that infinite mind. That's what you are.
So you think people can just
you
guess?
exist in the mind of God. That's the closest.
Have you ever
metaphor.
meditated?
Sorry?
Have you ever meditated? Meditation.
A little bit, yeah.
With meditation, can you know this mind?
You don't need to meditate. You're feeling it.
But I'm saying you can't know the
Sorry?
mind. You can't know the infinite. Being finite, it will be impossible for you to understand the infinite
For you
in
to
its entirety.
conceptualize that.
By definition.
Yeah, I have.
By definition.
No, it's not by definition.
Finite is not
Standard.
infinite.
Standard.
Just stand there. That's good. Well done. Well done. Just stand there.
Mind takes up no space, takes up no time. It's like it is everywhere, infinitely, in all places, all spaces.
As a finite individual,
Yeah.
we would not be able to
Theoretically,
know the
information,
infinite.
infinite information density as possible. Like a singularity, the entirety of everything, including all possible worlds, exists in a
Access to
single
the infinite
point.
mind.
Yeah.
As a finite, you will not have access to the infinite mind. Only if the infinite mind communicates to you. And that's why we're saying the Quran is a communication from that infinite mind in your understanding, which we say God.
You're assuming I'm not on exactly the same page as you on that.
Then, if this is the case,
there's just one.
if this is the
leap I
case,
make where-
what is the leap that you're not making, like accepting the Quran to follow it, right?
It's the fact that the world seems so.
So he agrees in principle, but
yeah, but I
there's
don't-
something that is making
Maybe he needs
Of
a
course.
practical example.
I don't believe that the world follows a single unified will. The world to me.
Stop! 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 It's okay. It's okay. The other brother's doing it. It's okay. It's okay, brother. Yeah. This is why I talk about children, not mature enough to be adults yet.
Not so many children.
Yeah. So
Gods.
there is a leap you're saying you can't make. Now, look, sometimes we actually give into. This is called submit to. A Muslim,
Yeah.
the definition is someone who surrenders and submits. Now, I want to make this because I think this is the crucial
It was
difference between you and
Muhammad.
me.
It was Muhammad's.
We'll
story.
come back. We'll come back.
Just 1 second. please.
A Muslim is a state of oneself, Islam, and a person, a practitioner, is called a Muslim. Someone who submits and surrenders. Why do we say submit and surrender? Because it's the recognition and understanding that this is ultimately now I have to accept it. There's no other way. I'm making not a leap of faith, but I'm making the next step of acceptance. That's what we're expecting from you, not a leap of faith to jump from your state. You're saying, yeah, Quran comes from this divine, but I cannot accept it. I'm saying it's a practical realization that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even himself, he cannot author the Quran. He cannot get information from it. He is only a means to transfer the message from the divine mind that you are calling the mind.
Interesting.
And Joseph, the way he does this is through a cumulative evidence.
Yeah.
In other words,
I'm not in
other words,
objection to any of that.
Yeah.
I know most of that.
No, we're just summarizing it.
So that's why we're saying, how do you make that?
What's the distinction? The distinction I don't make is that there is that that whatever the Quran is, it's Muhammad's. It's delivered from that infinite mind, but that
cannot be
infinite
sourced from
mind
him.
isn't unified.
It cannot be from him.
What do you mean it's not
but it is
unified?
him.
What do you mean it's not unified?
It can only be from the creator.
What do you mean by it's not
So
unified?
we only exist in one world, right? Yeah.
You and I in one world now. Yeah.
It's just one world. So Muhammad lived his life, and he had dreams and like imaginations and experiences that led him to see angels, to hear voices, to experience his.
You can't dream historical reality of the past.
And neither can you dream.
All time exists.
Neither can you dream the future as well.
Yeah.
No, you cannot.
Shall we give you some examples?
Sorry.
We'll give you some examples.
Now, Tanzania. Have you heard of Tanzania, the country in Africa?
Can you ask me one question?
One question.
Let me respond.
One question.
You just asked me about 4 questions.
Tanzania, in 10 years' time. Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Yeah.
Tanzania?
Yeah.
Okay,
Tanzania. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, Wales.
Sorry.
Wales.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Wales.
Yeah.
Okay. England, Scotland, and Wales. In 10 years' time, can you imagine Wales will be the superpower of the earth? The most powerful nation?
I mean, I can imagine it, but it doesn't make it real.
No.
But I
can you
can't predict the future.
Can you say this has happened? How plausible in your imagination that look, I can dream.
predict the future. Do you want me to predict the future?
Let me give you what you're going to dream. Imagine you dream and say, yeah, in 10 years' time,
I'll predict the future.
Wales will become the superpower of this entire earth. Now, and that's the reality. That's what's going to happen in reality.
Just to clarify there as well, add to that, it has to come true because you're claiming to be a prophet. In other words, it's like a falsification test.
Yeah.
If you're claiming to be receiving...
I could prophesy that I'll touch Mansur's jacket.
That's what I'm talking about.
Sure, but that's...
Yeah.
What is the probability factor of that? It's extremely high, isn't it?
But you're saying
that you're going to do
myself
that
a prophet.
And what's the probability factor that Wales will become the superpower in
10 years' time.
Well, if it is going to become the superpower in 10 years'
What's the
time...
probability?
What's the probability of that?
From the current state?
Oh, come on, you're an intelligent man.
Zero.
Joseph,
Very
come
high,
on.
very low? What is it?
0.
Exactly.
Right.
For
So
all
now,
intents and purposes,
so how can you dream that, yes, I'm quite certain it will happen in 10 years' time?
Because Muhammad was able to embody enough of that mind to see the...
So you're now saying he has access to the mind. And that's what we're saying. The mind, God gave
I'm
him the
conceding
information.
that mind exists, but,
So you are
but it's
agreeing
not
with us, but-
it's not unified infinitely outside of this world.
No, but it's enough to...
like-
but it's enough...
It's unified in a sense of like this world is
Yeah,
the localized part
but
of that
Joseph.
will. The only
Is
things
it
that
enough for
exist
you?
bring that distance,
Is the knowledge that you have of the Prophet Muhammad and your acknowledgement that he is receiving revelation from this infinite mind, is it enough for you to submit to yourself and become a Muslim right now?
No.
Okay, so what are the...
I don't wish to become a Muslim.
No, that's... Okay, but that's not the point we're trying to make. If you have conceded that the Prophet Muhammad received revelation from this mind,
Yeah.
right? And it's unlikely for you to come up with any naturalistic explanation for the knowledge that he has of the past, and we're talking the past way back, and the future way forward in the future.
I'm a little busy with other things at the minute, but I will come back and I will try and write something down and give you a...
What do you mean?
something.
You need to go?
No, not today. No.
Oh.
I mean, I will return with something like in writing that you can...
Sure.
You can
No
have a look at.
Let's leave it there then.
Yeah, go
Finish your point and we'll leave it there.
So there was a point about Islamic heaven and hell. Like you were talking about that with like whether you experience your like your crime and punishment. I believe all that happens here on Earth, right? In that your body may be like dissoluted, but your whatever your essence, your consciousness is still experiencing the.
There's no evidence for that.
Sorry.
There's no evidence for that.
That's what I believe. Right?
I know.
This
I
is
know.
but
But what is your belief
but
based
just
upon?
Pause. But you would say that during your lifetime you will commit certain acts that are either haram or it's the opposite of haram.
Haram, yes.
What's the opposite of haram?
Halal.
Halal? Yes, thank you. So for halal actions you will be rewarded, and for haram actions you will be punished. And I'm not sure all Muslims, but Muhammad, but I think you say that if you do something haram, you will suffer some period in hell, and then you get to heaven. But if you're a Muslim, you are guaranteed at some point after suffering your punishment, you will eventually be taken out of it and go to...
All Muslims will eventually return, even if they're deserving some punishment in the fire. Yeah.
Regardless of whether they are or aren't. Now,
Because the only people who will remain
I
in
don't want to
hellfire,
accept that offer.
are those who knew the truth, denied it, and are associated partners with
And so
associated a partner.
with God, with the infinite mind.
That's a crime in the sight of God. Not
Allah is
forgivable.
merciful.
No. He's merciful enough to say that this is a crime that I'm not going to forgive.
The most merciful.
Yes, that's why he tells us. This is a crime. There is a crime that he will never forgive. Out of his mercy, he mentioned that already. That's his mercy.
Sorry?
This is his mercy, but telling us there exists one crime that he will never forgive if you die on a state unrepenting.
Yeah.
And what's one last idea
Cool.
is that if during people's lifetimes, if during people's lifetimes that you as a Muslim were to do something that was haram, could you offer somebody else like some incentive to suffer your burdens in the afterlife?
You need to be responsible to your own self.
There is
Don't just rely on.
there is the concept of
It's like an intercessory.
You have, for instance, when you die, whatever certain good deeds you leave behind.
We're sticking around this life
You're talking about this life, though.
before death.
Are you talking about things that you leave behind in this world that might benefit you in the hereafter? No.
Let's say
Before death, in
say
this
you
life,
do some-
you are responsible for your own actions. You can't just
But you-
give it to
you
someone
can't-
else. Oh, can you do it for me and take the blame? No.
But you can do something good, or you can ask somebody else to suffer for you in order that
No,
you
not
don't.
suffer.
Sorry?
Individual has to take all their own responsibility. That's the individual accountability.
Where's that come from? Is there a
In the Quran.
is there a verse or something?
Throughout the Quran, this is the message. Consistent throughout the Quran. Every individual is for themselves. They have to believe and they have to do the righteous actions. You can't just say, you know what, let me make this individual called Jesus Christos and he can take my sins and take the punishment. It doesn't work like that. God has made every individual responsible for their own actions and their own beliefs.
Again, it's just not the metaphor. Like saying that
Yeah, so let's leave it there.
Jesus had that. He embodied God.
Yeah, but he
as a
can't.
persona.
No one can embody God.
You're probably right.
The finite can never embody the infinite.
Sorry?
That's obvious.
It depends. There may be
It doesn't even
aspects
It's not
of it.
depending. It's not depending on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen.
Aspects of it, yeah.
Nice-
Joseph, nice talking to you.
the
And we'll
abstract.
chat again. Yeah? Take care.
Nice talking to you.
You too. Take care.